Now, I want you to frame the issue. I guess just to cut to the chase, what's got a lot of local interest is you have a middle school. Now, I want you to correct me where I'm wrong. You're the superintendent. I was always a good student. I'm open to being corrected where I'm wrong. And by the way, it's Dr. Harris, right?
Thank you. Yes.
Is you have a middle school that I believe is more than 80 more than 80 years old in infrastructure. And there's an issue or bond, whatever you call it, to build a new middle school, which usually are the grades 5 and 6 through 8. Is that about the?
That's correct, 5 through 8.
Yeah.
Right.
And it needs 60%. Did not pass before. I think you said looking up, it's got 58% of the local support.
Yes.
And it's coming up again in March.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. Now, do you fear it's going to be a close vote again?
I expect a close vote. Yes. I think we are hopeful that it's a good proposal. It's very much needed, and I think there's even that recognition. But it's still a very difficult economic time.
Right.
In fact, so difficult that this is probably going to be the last shot for it because of changes in the state building aid, I bet.
Right, and we're talking about Lebanon, but this could be any community anywhere in New Hampshire that has an issue for a new school or renovating an old one. Let me ask you this: Mike, you're in a part of the state that nationally, when you see these rankings of economies, Hanover, Lebanon area get some of the top 10, the top whatever of places to live and work because of the college education, quality of life. You're always almost your unemployment's about half of the national average, certainly lower than the 7% here in New Hampshire, and yet you still have local opposition from folks to build this school. Why again? Just did people not see it? I don't even know. I don't live there, so I don't know how I would vote. But is it easier given that economy, or still people there are still sensing the financial stresses?
No, I think very clearly there are financial stresses hitting many people here. The big news story here in the Upper Valley lately has probably been the threatened cutbacks at Dartmouth.
Mm-hmm.
And if Dartmouth's jobs are threatened, then that's reflective on the economy in the Upper Valley. So, yeah, it is still a struggle here. School districts around us are threatened with very significant, much larger tax increases. We were kind of fortunate this year to come in with a budget between 1% and 2% increase, but an awful lot of places around us are struggling with much greater tax burdens.
Mm-hmm.
So the combination of all that has left it, it's a tough time to get a big project, $25 million approved.
And what would it do? Does it have, like all these things, a first few year bigger hit on people's taxes, and then, or how is your 1 or 2% overall budget got this already figured in?
No, it doesn't. No, this would be on top
Separate.
of that, because in fact the tax impact of a bond project like this, and this would be a 20-year bond, wouldn't even come until the year 2012. I think it's fiscal year 2013 is when the bond impact would begin to be. The bond would begin to be paid, and the tax impact would take any effect. So it's that far out, but that's not when you're voting. People are voting now,
and their mood now may not be the most ripe for this. Mike, is there a place to go where people can get the facts? Is there a website or phone number other than the local newspapers?
Yeah, there is a website, sau88.net.
SAU88. That's easy to remember.
Yeah.
Sounds like a movie, or like one of these. No, I'm kidding. John Travolta movie. No.
Yeah, all the various configurations.
No, that's an easy one.
What they call their superintendencies.
No, that's an easy one, sau88.com. Mike, answer this for me. I had the privilege of talking to you yesterday a little bit offline because we've heard some folks in the Upper Valley about this, want me to get some folks on this. And, of course, we broadcast live up there, so I'm happy to do it. You've been in education quite a while, and obviously to be a superintendent and a doctor in the position, and I know you do some teaching at Dartmouth.
Right.
This is your passion, this is your career, and you've seen a lot of change, I'm sure, over the years.
Sure have. I started in private special ed education and have moved to public, so I've probably seen the changes across those systems.
Well, the reason why I was going to ask you a question with your expertise and background or your career is I mentioned you on the phone yesterday when we were talking that, and I live in Bedford, and we went through, I think it was a couple decades at least, the merits or demerits of building a new high school, because not to get into the Bedford thing, but it might apply to other towns, is Bedford was a small town, a bedroom community in Manchester for many years, not big enough to have its own high school.
Oh, right.
And the kids went to, most of them went to West High School in Manchester. And then, many times over the last 10 years or 15 years, there were different attempts to build a new high school. They failed. Finally, this one got passed, and I think it's the second year now that the Bedford High School is open, and I have a kid going there. My question is, from a taxpayer, I can understand the reticence from taxpayers and especially folks who, they might be getting older and they don't have as many kids in the system, and they're having a hard time keeping in their homes. So on the one hand, I'm very empathetic to taxpayers. On the other hand, I realize that the long-term health of Bedford, and I was kind of torn on the Bedford High School, to be honest with you, but the long-term health of the community is going to be enriched over time with a new high school, because families will seek out that place to raise their families, to move there. So I think it's a long-term gain for the community. But how do you balance that fear of people not affording the current, and with the investment in the future? And I always wondered, and I'm going to stop here because I think it's a big subject. I'm glad you're on, because I think any community in New Hampshire can relate to what you're dealing with. I always wondered why there's not almost a usage fee. In other words, I know everyone benefits from a new school in the town, but if someone's in their 50s or 60s and their kids don't even live in the state, or they're not in town anymore, how do you tell them that their taxes are going to go up this much over the next several years to pay for that, versus someone who has 4 kids coming up in the system, and why not make it accordingly? But I never knew why that was. Maybe you can't do that. But what are your thoughts about balancing the concerned taxpayer with the long-term view of a community?
Yeah, and the term I think I would use would be vitality of the community.
Yeah.
And Lebanon has not built a new school building in over 50 years, and there is a vitality level that needs to be re-energized every generation, and I think we even missed a generation, and the community really needs this. That would be my argument for it. And It's not just a matter of the children, but it's a matter of the vitality of the community that needs to be re-energized as well. Yeah, and the other side of the argument is what we're hearing repeatedly now. And we have the responsibility to do everything we can to keep taxes down. We did close 2 schools a year ago, and that cut $1 off the tax rate, which, interestingly, is about the increase that would be affected by a bond issue taking place in a couple of years. So we need to try to balance it off those ways, but I have the responsibility for the education of the children here, and I don't think their best interests are being served in this building. And I've got to express my opinion and recommendation that for the good of the community, we need to do this. The
vitality, I think, is a way to put it. The other thing is, even folks who don't have kids in the system, I think it would be great if yours passes, or schools towns that do build new facilities, is to include all ages in the community and programs there, whether they're night programs or plays or meeting places or workshops, and don't make it just about the 9th or the 5th or the 6th or 10th or 11th graders. Make it a true community center, because many times the high school or middle school becomes that. It becomes a place of gathering, a place of meetings, whether it's a hobbyist convention or a basketball game.
Yeah, particularly wherever we have a gymnasium.
Yeah, right.
And this would have a new one and a good one, because we know the community wants that. And it was designed with that in mind, a community use. So, because you're right, that's important to the community.
Well, listen, Mike Harris joining us, Dr. Mike Harris, Superintendent, SAU 88. SAU88.com is the website. The issue's got a little over a month and a half, I guess, in March is the vote. When's the vote?
Yeah, March 9th, yes.
So maybe we'll get you on again and check in. I mean, obviously a tough fiscal environment, but you make a good case. I didn't realize that was that many years since Lebanon has had a new school building. So
yeah, we've got 2 buildings that are over 100 years old that we just closed, a third one that's still operating, and this one that's 85 years old.
Well, thank you, Mike, and good luck to you.
It's been a pleasure, Jack.
And
Thank
I appreciate what you do for all the community and the kids. Thanks.
Thanks very much.
All right.
Okay.